Let's do it, brother.
All right. Hey, everybody, it's Travis Robbins from physicaltherapybilling.com. I have some amazing speakers here today. These guys are the closers. Lee and I spoke earlier in our masterclass, and now Will and Robbie are going to speak about two pain points that are constantly at the top of most practice owners that I talk about. So there's marketing, but it's going to be a little bit different talk about marketing. Robbie is going to speak to some value marketing and some different things that you guys probably have not seen in the marketplace, which I'm excited about. Just a heads up, if you have a shit product, his marketing is not going to work because he pushes marketing to really good physical therapy practices. So if that is not you, it's not going to work out. But I have a feeling there's a lot of people on this call that have an amazing product, and Robbie's going to help you promote that product. Also, Will's going to talk about hiring and recruiting. So that is, sorry, Robbie, probably just like a little bit higher on the pain in the ass stuff that our therapists are worried about because we cannot find therapists to fill these schedules. So the combination of these two guys is pretty powerful because Robbie's going to show you how to get more people in the door. And then Will is going to show us how to service those people with great PTs. Sound good? Robbie, I think you're going to go first, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll go first. Hey,
right,
just to be very clear, though, give you a little hiring nugget. We are in the biggest hiring season of the year right now. So we have all of the new grads taking their board exam in 2 weeks. And all the I believe the spring graduates are going to be coming out and taking a board exam here in July. So even if your numbers in your clinics aren't where they need to be right now, some people have summer numbers, which they start to take a little bit dip. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, how to make sure we avoid those dips. But if you are recruiting, and Will's going to come on here and talk about recruiting in a little bit, we are in a prime hiring season. So a lot of competitors out there probably aren't going to be hiring because their numbers are going down. But if you do what I tell you to do, and then you do what Will tells you to do, you will have one, possibly two providers more heading into your busier season, which is the fall. So just a small heads up there. So there you go. So Travis, what I'll do, I got a board here. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. And before I dive in, just make sure you guys could see that. And then you can see this. There you go. Everybody cool to go? Awesome.
Yeah, we're good.
So first thing is, and what I love about PT Billing is they're a billing company, but at the same time, they're very, very big on also making sure that you're growing and expanding as a PT clinic or a business in general. Because ultimately, if you ever look at that business success curve here, you know, you go ahead and you start bringing in some folks here, you plateau, and then you have an option. So you start to fill your practice. And then the question then becomes, well, do I just stay at like one location, or does it make sense for me to eventually go to a second location? And then, you know, this is growth over time. And then what eventually is going to happen is you guys will have two locations and you start filling that up and you get to like Travis level or Lee where they have multiple clinics. And then you can just keep doing this thing over and over. The problem is if you get to this point where you start to max out and plateau and you don't grow, eventually what's going to happen is if you're not growing, you are, come on, in the chat right now, go ahead and throw it in there, right? You're dying. And we see this all the time. So you get to the point here where, and this is where Will comes in, because Will's going to help out with recruiting to help you guys fill when you grow. But also, if you're not growing and you stay at one location, you run into a retention issue, right? Because if you don't have a vision that's so big that your team members could fit their careers inside of it, they're going to look elsewhere, right? And that's why some people want to latch on to corporate because they think they have a big vision. They're doing big things. But realistically, if you could show up and you could set that vision and want to grow and expand, then you could start to get A players coming in and be like, I want to be a part of something bigger. So before I go into the market, everybody wants to learn the marketing stuff. Why is this important? So when you go to sell your business, I'm not saying any of you guys are looking to sell right now. They want to make sure to make a business juicy, right? To make it appealing when you go to sell. They want to make sure that you're growing 20% year over year. And they also want to make sure your gross profit is 20% or more, which is basically like your EBITDA number, right? Your EBITDA margin. So if you're not growing 20% a year, or if you're not at a 20% margin, you're not really juicy to those private equity companies that come in. The reason why is because they could invest in treasury bonds and get 5%. They could also go and invest in the S&P 500 and get 10%. So you got to be a little bit more appealing for them to want to come in and buy you out. Okay. So I'm going to show you a system today, first and foremost, to make sure that you just have endless amount of patience. The machine just kind of runs. And then eventually there's only two things that I want you guys to get in when you're trying to grow. Is I want you guys to be in the recruitment business, right? And Will's going to talk about that a little bit in a second here. And the other thing I want you to be in is the real estate business. Because a lot of people think they're in the physical therapy business, But the sooner you could get into the McDonald's where you're just trying to find real estate to flip your burgers and you're trying to find people to flip them for you, that's when you're going to start to win the game here. Everybody sound good? I see Brent's on here. What's up, Amy? Everybody cool with that, right? So what we got to do first is we have to understand that we have to build this kind of machine. And the problem is everybody always comes to us and they ask for marketing help. And every time when they ask for marketing help, they always say like Facebook, website, Google ads, things like that. And then eventually what people will do is they hop on a call with us and they say, well, I don't really have a marketing issue, right? I have maybe like a recruiting issue or internal system. And then we start looking at their internal stuff and we say, well, you do have a marketing issue. There's just external marketing, there's internal marketing. Also, what there is a lot of people want quick wins. They run a Facebook ad and then eventually they turn it on and then the Facebook ad starts to fatigue and they start to lose patience. And then Brett calls us up and he says, hey, we got to run another Facebook ad. Throw another one on, starts to work for a little bit, and then we need to change the ad again. Let's do it again. Let's do a workshop. Let's do an Instagram ad. Let's do, right? Travis leans in. He's like, what about postcards? I'm like, all right, we'll do postcards. And then eventually you start, is that resonating? Everybody do that. You start running things and then eventually it just starts, right? So eventually what happens though, is we meet other owners. Owner number 2. They come in and they've been in business for 10 years and they kind of like slowly getting this thing going and then it just takes off. And we're like, well, what happened here? And they're like, I don't know. It just kind of started taking off and they don't know why. And then eventually what happens is they have goodwill marketing, right? Slow to get patients in. But once they get that like 2 patients in, they become 4, 4 become 8, 8 becomes 16. And then they're off to the races here, right? 16, 32, 64 on their way. So what we want to do here is we want to take goodwill marketing and we want to take quick win marketing and we want to pair them together. Because if you guys could bring in patients through some of your paid stuff and then you could pour into them on the back end, eventually you're going to get to this point here where you no longer have to do paid marketing unless you're bringing on a new PT, you're opening a new clinic, or you're keeping an eye on your yearly trends. Like when things start to dip. Everybody cool with that? Does it make sense? Okay. So I know some people on this call, they don't even run paid marketing because they're like, hey, we're crushing it. A lot of our goodwill stuff is taking off. And then eventually they lean in like, hey, some of that goodwill stuff is starting to go down a little bit. I think I need to turn some stuff on. Okay. So let me show you this system here. Okay. So the biggest thing I want you, everybody cool with that? Does it make sense? Can we move on and show you the system? Cool.
Yeah.
So I
was gonna chime in, Robbie.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
It's good to have options, baby. The goodwill's great.
Oh,
that's right.
Real quick, if you want even more options, when you go to sell your business, they look for this thing called key channel risk. Okay. So if you just have one physician that's pumping in leads to you and then you get hit by a bus, you now have a high risk and they don't want to buy your business. Right. So you have to, I love that Lee just said, you have to have multiple channels, 100%. Okay. So some of this might be elementary to you guys as owners, but just bear with me and we'll get to the end. You'll be like, that's awesome. Right. First thing that you want to make sure is all your evals that are coming in. Biggest thing that we see with a lot of clients that we work with is we basically say, I want you to take the total number of discharges inside of your EMR and divide that number by the total amount of new patients that you ever had. Right. Sharif was on here talking about EMR so they could track this information, right? This is called your graduation rate. Anybody know what the national average for graduation rate is? National average, all the clinics in the US, what's the national average for pumping a PT or pumping a patient from eval to discharge? What is it?
11%.
Yeah, it's like 9 to 11%. Wild, right? Here's why that matters, okay? So if we're getting evals in, first thing that we want to do, regardless of what you think of them, ATI had a really nice study. They said, if we could get patients to the progress note, you're going to average 6 more visits for a plan of care. So that's 6 more opportunities to get them to graduation. Okay. Also, ATI in that drop-off study, they basically said, if you have 2 back-to-back no-shows or cancels, there's a 73% chance they're dropping off the schedule. Trying to give you some nuggets here as they go. Everybody cool with that? Does it make sense? Okay. So your number one mantra for all of your evaluations that come in is, how do I get them to the progress summary? You should be talking about that with every single one of your patients, every single one of your team members, is how do I get them to the progress note? What's the number one reason why people drop off at visit number 3 for people with multiple providers? It's the number one reason. What do you think, Travis?
They're getting
People
passed off.
Yeah, someone else.
Continuity of care. 100%. They see Lee, they see Travis, they see Will, they see Brent, they see me, and then they're like, I'm done. Told my story to 5 different people, right? Continuity of care, right? What's the number one reason why people drop off at 6 visits? What do you think?
Not making progress?
Do the opposite of that.
I was going to say they're
You
feeling
guys are
good.
too good. You guys are too good. Come on. I know you're going to get progress, right? Yeah, they're feeling better.
No
And you
pain.
didn't pre-frame them into level 2. You didn't tell them like, hey, Travis, I totally expect you to get better in the first 6 visits. But once you start feeling better, there's more. Strength, mobility, flexibility, priming, all that other stuff. So a lot of people are dropping off, right? And if you guys don't believe that drop-offs are happening in your clinic, what's the number one thing that people tell you at graduation? I hope I never see you again. It's been awesome, but I hope I never see you guys again. That means I'm injured, right? So people don't want to come to physical therapy. So we have to be able to set up systems here to make sure that we set up an environment to keep people around, keep people engaged, keep people excited. Get them to graduation. Eventually, they'll become a past patient and get them back in. Okay. The reason why I tell you that is in order for you guys to go from eval to progress note, you have to build a relationship with all your patients. It's number one. Okay. Because we got a lot of skeptics coming in. We got to make them into believers. Then once we get them, and a lot of times relationships, this is all about quick wins. How do I get them a quick win in the first couple sessions here and keep the momentum to progress note? Then we want to start to look at this. And if you guys don't do this, you should do it in your clinics, is how many progress notes are we seeing divided by how many new patients we have coming in, right? Your progress note rate should be over 80%, right? 60, 80%. You should be, yeah, you take the total number of progress notes that you guys are doing, right? How many of their first time progress notes divided by how many new patients you got coming in. You should start tracking that metric, right? Really, really powerful. And then what we want to do here is in order to get a progress note to graduation, this is where we get them a result. Graduation to past patient, we then ask for a review. And then we go from past patient to eval. This is where we get a return. Now, I don't have time to go over it today, but what I want to show you guys too is in the middle of this whole entire system, this is where a lot of people make a mistake. Okay. Travis, what's the number one question or when patients go back to doctors or they're going back to see their doctor, and what's the number one question that they ask you a lot in the clinic as a provider? They say, hey, should I go back and see my what? Right? Should I go back and see my doctor? Yeah. All the time. And what does your provider say?
I mean, they're probably not going to do anything different in like changing their plan of care.
Yeah.
But we send them back to say, hey, when you go back to your doctor, like if you're getting wins here, then make sure you let them know about it.
Yeah, because Travis is super smart, right? That's why I asked Travis. So he said, because if we're only sending patients back to the doctor on that 4-week follow-up that aren't getting better, recency bias, they're going to keep hearing that you can't get patients better. Right? So one of the easiest things to leverage here is that we're going to do this thing in the middle here. Now, if you guys know Chet Holmes, but Chet Holmes wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. It's called The Dream 100. I think 100 physician marketing, like trying to keep track of 100 physicians, is extreme, which is kind of crazy. So I just say we're going to do this practice 25 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify 25 doctors inside of our little system here that we're going to refer our patients to different PCPs or different shoulder people or different, the same ones every single time. And then they're going to keep hearing that Robin's Rehab is getting them better and they're awesome. Anybody know why a doctor has a patient come back every 4 weeks? Hey, Travis, go to physical therapy for 4 weeks and then come back. Why do they do that?
Well, I mean, the doctor wants to see how they're doing in physical therapy.
Yep. And if they're not doing well, what does that then unlock?
Well, different interventions. So they might
different
need
interventions.
Injections, medication, surgery.
4 weeks is their clinical predictive rule. Do 4 weeks of physical therapy and then come back to the doctor. Because if you are not better, now I could do an injection. Now I could do surgery. I can't get approved for that if you don't do PT first. That's why they say 4 weeks and then return. People are like, because they want more money. I'm like, your $100 doesn't matter. It's the 30 grand surgery that they're looking for, because they don't necessarily want to do surgery with folks, to do PT first and then come back. So if you have patients getting better, or you have patients that need to be referred out, or you have patients that have high blood pressure and they haven't been in for a physical and they don't have a PCP, start referring them to these doctors. Set up this system. The other cool part about this, you're going to have active patients coming back with referrals and past patients referring their friends and family. So the last thing here in your internal marketing system is going to be referrals. If you don't believe this is powerful, you could have 25 doctors here referring 1, 2, or 3 patients to you a month. That's 25, that's 50, that's 75 new patients a month coming from this simple system, right? Not to mention, in order to return, 4% of your patient list is going to be ready to return at all times. 8 to 10% of your patient list, assuming you're getting them to graduation, are going to want to leave you a review. And then we should be able to get 60 to 80% of our patients to graduate and get a result. Everybody cool with that? Cool with those numbers? All right. Now, the other thing I want to tell you here is when we kind of zoom out a little bit, Sharif was here and he has EMR, right? You got your EMR. You also have like a CRM. Some people use High Level. Some people use Infusionsoft, whatever that looks like. And then eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have your website, right? So that's one thing that you could get leads from. You're going to have your SEO or Google and all that other good stuff. So you're going to be able to send people into your EMR CRM through that. You're going to be able to do Facebook. What else in the chat? Or Travis, you could read some stuff if people are typing it in. What's some other marketing things that you guys could be doing to get new patients, right? And if you go ahead and unmute, just list them on. I'll start listing them off here. We got events, right? Events could even be like workshops or open house events or past patient events, free screen days, whatever that looks like, events, ice cream socials, whatever you want to do, patient appreciation, a lot of events, open house events, grand opening events, right? Some of you guys are going to do networking events with different providers, local businesses. Lee's a very big advocate of partnering with local businesses, right? Captured audience folks. Are we missing anybody? Did we forget anybody?
Physician on there?
Yeah, a physician, right? We have physicians in here, our 25, but we could also put physicians here for the ones that we don't know.
Amy
Google
says
ads.
paid Google ads. That's what Amy says.
Yeah, Google and Google, just by the way, because we are working with this with a lot of our clients right now. Google ads just promoted physical therapists to do LSA ads, which is pretty cool. So if you don't know what LSA ads, chiropractors, let's see, who else? Handyman, carpenters, flooring companies all had local search ads, which means that they put a Google guarantee that if you go to this listing and you don't have a good experience, Google will actually refund the clients because they give them a poor recommendation. So physical therapists just got added to be LSA ads, which is awesome. So we're starting to roll this out because it's a very hard verification process to become verified. But once you're verified, you are now going to go to the top of Google. It's going to show your Google star ranking, which you have to be over a 4.7% to even qualify for LSAs. And now it's going to have on there, it's going to slap a Google guarantee on that ad. And these are just straight to call, not to your website, not to whatever. They now do straight to book a call, which is awesome. Okay. Now we have all of this stuff pumping. Here's the thing, right? Sounds awesome. The goal here when you want to grow and expand is you want to bring evals in, progress note, graduation, past patient, and it just starts to build. People don't like to hear the word machine and physical therapy in the same sentence because they think of that as like a mill. However, if you're going to grow and expand, you have to set up this machine to constantly work. And then you have this perpetual motion where it just gets faster and faster and faster and faster until a constraint shows up. And in your business, you guys are going to start to notice that you're going to have constraints that pop up all the time. And what eventually is going to happen is Travis leans in. He's like, hey, we can't convert Facebook leads. We got a sales issue. My front office can't convert people. Let's go ahead and just increase the ad spend and get more leads, or let's switch up the ad. And then all of a sudden we switch it up. We change the ad. We do whatever we have to do on the Facebook side of things, but it's going to keep hitting the constraint. And then eventually Travis leans in. He's like, hey, good news. Some of that stuff has been working. I no longer have a constraint. We're like, awesome. And it starts rolling again. And then eventually he's going to be like, hey, I got another constraint. And we'll say, what's your constraint? He goes, hey, we got people dropping off the schedule. We're getting the Facebook ads in now, but now all of a sudden they're dropping off the schedule. Well, if you got people not making it to their progress summary, I want to be as clear as I can on this. You are not going to get them to graduation, which is a result. You're not going to get a review out of them. You're not going to get a return, and you're sure as heck not going to get a referral. So now you just cost yourself goodwill marketing. Okay? And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get the system pumping again. You're going to get it pumping and pumping and pumping. And the only two constraints I want you guys to have in your business when you're trying to grow is I just need to recruit and I just need to find more real estate. And the moment you have these two problems in your business as a physical therapist, that is when you're going to start to win the game. Okay. So we have to make sure that you guys have a system internally that is pumping new patients to progress note to graduation. Get all of your, and like I said, 4% of your past patients. Lee, how big is your list? How big is your list, brother?
Like 3,500.
3,500 people. He's testing my math here. So you got 3,500 people. So if you got 3,500,
easy, man.
Yeah, he's got, so at any given time, he's got 140 people popping around each month that could possibly come back in for an evaluation. At the very minimum, he's got 140 people who'll get a year from his past patient list. And Lee, what are you guys averaging a month on past patients, if you know that number, ballpark?
I would say I can give you a percentage. Probably 40% of our referrals are past patient or past patient referral.
Let's go. So 40% of your referral. Yeah. So he's averaging at minimal 12 new patients a month just from that 3,500 list. And if he's at 40%, he's probably closer to 24, which is just pumping in past patients. And that's just one thing, right? And then if you could put a system in place to remind these people, or you put a system in place to get more reviews, or you put a system in place to get people to progress note or graduation, and then you put a system in place to get referrals internally, and then you get all this other stuff pumping out here. Well, now all of a sudden, the only thing that you're eventually going to have to worry about is recruiting in real estate. And I do want to tell you guys before I start wrapping up here and we'll get some questions, is the linchpin to all of this stuff, because this here is marketing. This here is your providers. This here is your front desk. So if you guys aren't training your front desk on sales and getting your leads to become new patients and getting them to stick around and go through the system, that's why I always laugh when I see people paying front office people like $15 an hour to work their front desk, because they are costing you money not knowing how to convert folks. So be very careful with who you hire at your front desk and not providing proper training there, because these people are the linchpin holding your whole thing together. Okay. I know none of us on here have front office issues. so there you go. So I think I stopped my screen here. Was that helpful to see? You guys cool with that? Well, I think I still have my screen shared. I don't know how to
You're good, man.
There you go. But anyways, if we got any questions on that, happy to help. And then again, once you get that system set up, and I'll be happy to talk about this more. I'm excited coming out with these guys. I'll see them in Arizona in the fall here, which is cool. I actually asked my wife, I said, hey, she's like, you're being really nice around the house. Is there any? I was like, well, I got this thing coming up I want to get to. so I'm excited to come hang out with these guys in Arizona. So we'll talk more about it there. But any questions or anything? And then Will's going to talk about recruiting here in a little bit. Cool. Oh, there we go. I stopped my share.
Anybody's, yeah. Whenever Robbie's dropping stuff, it's like mind blowing. It's crazy. It's good stuff, man.
Cool, man.
Love it.
What's up, Amy?
Amy, you got anything?
What's up, guys?
Actually, Amy's our first sign up. She's already signed up to be there, so she'll be reunited with us in Scottsdale.
Cool.
So we're super pumped about that. So
yeah, I'm psyched. Give me that hot seat.